Would you please rise in body or spirit as you are able as we sing our gathering hymn number 219, "O Hear My People."
Good morning, everybody. Oh, we can do better than that. Good morning. All right. Who was here last night until 10 a.m.? Or 10 p.m.? I'm telling you, Deanna, you missed something. Yeah, you missed something. For those of you who weren't here last night, you missed a great Mardi Gras masquerade party, ball, dancing. We had John Schimberg and his band hanging out, playing. We had the, who did we have? The performers in the Imperial Sovereign Court of Willamette Empire, including the Empress Mallahu? I thought it was like Mulan.
It was Mulan.
Okay. Someone else this morning said something else, so that's why it's Mulan. Okay, cool. Which is wonderful. Lots of fun. We raised $17,000, which is... Okay, so the reason why you will never have me as treasurer is because money and numbers and me do not go together. I realize this, and I accept this. So after everyone will just take a breath and come back to life, I will say the correct amount, shall I? Shall we try 1,700? Still good. Only 300. There I go again, wanting more money. Only 300 from the goal of 2,000. So if you would like to help us reach that goal, you still have an opportunity to donate. Just go onto the website and just hit UUCS or General Fund, and there you go. 3 people easily do it, 6 people easily do it, 10 people easily do it. So that's great. That's wonderful. So thank you for those of us who stayed up until 10 a.m. I think that was the deal. We had to keep staying. I think that was what's in my mind. Right. And here we are again. Nice. So today's focus is going to be on the spiritual act of memoir writing and how that can help. And therefore, I wanted to share with you a quote from one of my favorite authors, Agatha Christie. "The best time to plan a book is when doing the dishes." Just so you know. I think based on her success, we should think about that and take that for what it's worth. That sounds like a good plan. So welcome, and let us begin. George R.R. Martin on writing. I think there are 2 types of writers, the architects and the gardeners. The architects plan everything ahead of time, like an architect building a house. They know how many rooms are going to be in the house, what kind of roof they're going to have, where the wires are going to run, what kind of plumbing there's going to be. They have the whole thing designed and blueprinted out before they even nail the first board up. The gardeners dig a hole, drop in a seed, and water it. They kind of know what kind of seed it is. It could be a fantasy seed, a mystery seed, an information seed. But as the plant comes up and they water it, they don't know how many branches are going to have. They find out as it grows. And I'm a much more of a gardener than an architect. So be the gardener or the architect of your life story. Please join me as we say our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration. Build a community of caring fellowship. Nurture the hopes and serve the needs of our world. Yes, I do know what I'm doing, Gloria. Each week we light 3 chalices. The first for friends and members of the Unitarian Congregationalist, Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. So I said last night that I was going to go home early, and everyone was like, why? You'll get placed. Something like, well, because, it takes me a while to then, after I've gone to a party to come down, and I'm going to be up here, I'm going to be speaking, I want to try to do a good job. So, of course, I stayed until 10. I got to bed about 12:30. And I think you can tell by my word choice why I originally suggested 9. But anyway, shall we carry on? Okay. The next we do for our dear partner church in Shimafalva, Transylvania, Romania. Mark your calendar for March 17th when we will do a special service for that. And the last one we'd light for our children and youth who enjoy dancing so much, and in religious exploration as well as the world at large. E.L. Doctorow writes, "Writing is like driving at night. You can only see as far as the headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. So too may the lighting of these chalices light our path as we journey along life's way." Please join me in singing "The Flame into Life." Okay, so all the children come down?
All the children,
It's on.
and those young at heart.
It's on.
Stay 1, 2.
There we go.
They know what to do. So my name is Lynn, and I'm the guest reader today. Well, you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, so I am going to try to do this. I don't know that we have pictures today. Do we? Oh, great. Okay. There was an old woman who swallowed a fly. How many of you have read the There Was an Old Woman books? Maybe not this one. No, this is a rose. She swallowed a rose. Well, you can look up there too at the pictures. There was an old woman who swallowed a rose. I don't know why she swallowed the rose, but that's how it goes. There was an old woman who swallowed some lace. She didn't race to swallow that lace. She swallowed the lace to tie to the rose. I don't know why she swallowed the rose, but that's how it goes. There was an old woman who swallowed some glitter. She wasn't a quitter to swallow that glitter. She swallowed the glitter to trim the lace. She swallowed the lace to tie to the rose. I don't know why she swallowed the rose, but that's how it goes. There was an old lady who swallowed some candy. It was fine and dandy to swallow that candy. She swallowed the candy to garnish the glitter. She swallowed the glitter to trim the lace. She swallowed the lace to tie to the rose. I don't know why she swallowed the rose, but that's how it goes. You can say that part with me, too. There was an old lady who swallowed a jewel. She wasn't a fool to swallow that jewel. I forget how to say it. She swallowed the jewel to brighten the candy. She swallowed the candy to garnish the glitter, and she swallowed the glitter to trim the lace that she swallowed to tie to the rose. I don't know why she swallowed the rose, but that's how it goes. There was an old lady who swallowed some hearts. She showed her smarts by swallowing those hearts. She swallowed the hearts to surround the jewel. She swallowed the jewel to brighten the candy. She swallowed the candy to garnish the glitter. She swallowed the glitter to trim the lace. She swallowed the lace to tie to the rose. I don't know why she swallowed the rose, but that's how it goes. There was an old lady who swallowed a card. It wasn't hard to swallow the card. It brought the old lady so much happiness that she smiled and laughed and blew a big kiss. Happy Valentine's Day. Love, the old lady. Thank you.
Hello. hello. I just wanted to make an announcement that on the 25th, we're having our multi-generational service, and there's going to be a few surprises that are different and new. So be prepared and excited, because I am. But if I could everyone perform the Love Arch, please, and thank you. March 25th.
Walking the path of compassion and gratitude. I woke on Saturday, the sky a little lighter than the day before, a peak of spring inching forward into our lives. I sat down to my coffee and crunchy Cheerios, and ping, a message from a friend. "So how are you?" it read. And suddenly from my fingers burst forth all these things I feel I have to do, that I feel in some way I am responsible for, or at least have to attend to. The growing tension in my body was slowly making its appearance known. And then I suddenly wrote, "When I don't get a day of no responsibility for a while, I get cranky." And with that, all the tension melted away. Expressing what I was feeling underneath the surface of my life and stating what I knew I needed to feel recharged gave me a sense of compassion for myself, same as I would a busy friend. Nurturing ourselves with compassion and renewal allows us the opportunity to be compassionate and nurturing with others in return. And gratitude. The spring weather lately has brought a sense of warmth and gratitude for the earth in all its glory and for the joy of renewal that comes with spring and rebirth. Gratitude for the rebirth of nature, nurturing our souls, to the rebirth of joy in our hearts and the love that surrounds each one of us on our journey. We can be reminded of this surrounding love and joy when we pause a moment and notice the renewal that occurs. Even as in the ashes of destruction, a daffodil will start to bloom. May we remember to walk the path of compassion and gratitude in our lives.
Good morning. My name is Annie Jocelyn, and I am one of your Lifeline lay ministers. This morning I have two joys and two concerns that I would like to share with you. The first one is actually a concern that was submitted last week that I want to reread for clarification. It was from Sarah and Joseph, and it states, "Prayers and healing thoughts for the family of lifelong UUCS member Cecilia Craig, who passed away on Wednesday, January 31st. We remember fondly our times working with Cecilia and her cousin Carolyn Bridges on social justice issues with the UUCS social justice team, and the wonderful stories of her life and her strength and heart. My second concern, this is in the book this morning, and it is submitted by Jan Bay. The passing of Deanna's granddaughter. She was 20. Then I have two joys. My first joy is submitted anonymously. It says, I'd like to express the joy of gratitude for UUCS's live stream. I used to attend the services every Sunday when I lived in Salem. And since moving away, I miss everyone dearly, but the opportunity to still watch the service remotely has been a gift. I am alone where I am, and I often experience immense sadness over my separation from the people I love. The live streaming service at the UUCS provides makes it possible for me to still access the light of connection and belonging which this congregation fosters, and for that light I am eternally grateful. Thank you to all of those for making the live stream possible and for continually making it better as well. And my final joy today is from Annabelle. Thankful for the Salem Health ER and cardiovascular team for taking quick action and saving my father's life last night after experiencing a nearly fatal heart attack. My father is talking and eating this morning and is hoping to go home today. And finally, we light one more candle for those joys and concerns felt in anyone's hearts that remain unspoken. Lifeline lay ministers are fellow members that extend Reverend Rick's ministry to members and friends of the congregation who are experiencing loss, illness, or any type of personal family crisis. You can reach out to us by visiting our Lifelines table in Hanneman Hall each Sunday after the service. Our lavender badges say Lifeline lay minister under our names, and you can also contact us at the email address seen on the screen. You can post your joys and concerns in the book in the foyer before church. And today is the second Sunday of the month, which means that we have Compassionate Connections following service. If you have anything that you wish to, that is bothering you, big or small, that you want to share with a few Lifeline ministers who will be offering their listening ears and a caring heart, please join us at the end of the service in the front. We will head afterwards to a private space. And with that, thank you to everyone who submitted a joy and concern today, and thank you to all of you for keeping these people in your hearts.
I was 14 before I knew that everyone didn't get their hair permed in the middle of the night. My blonde hair was thin and fine. It was always a mess. In an attempt to make me look presentable, especially for school pictures, my mother agreed that something had to be done to my hair so I wouldn't show up at school looking like a feral child. I remember waiting anxiously all day and through dinner until my mom would have time to give me a children's Tony permanent in a box. Mom would finish the milking about 9 p.m., and often I'd be asleep on the couch waiting for her. She would wake me up, bring me to the table, bring out the permanent box and the little pink rollers, and the beautification process would begin. After rolling up my entire head of hair, she soaked each curl with a horrible smelling ammonia solution, then wrapped my head in a plastic bag that came in the little Tony box. Over this was wrapped a towel to save the pillowcase and my eyes from having to deal with the leaking ammonia. Then it was off to bed, where I struggled to get comfortable and go to sleep while the children's Tony permanent solution worked its magic. Sometime later, probably a couple of hours, Mom came to my bed, woke me up, and guided me into the kitchen, where she held my head under the faucet to rinse the permanent solution from my rollers. She then sat me down at the little table and removed all the rollers from my hair. After combing through the newly curled, and usually fairly frizzy, locks, she rolled up my hair once again, this time in little brown rollers, made especially to make children, such as myself, simply adorable. When Mom finished rolling my hair and wrapping it in a large handkerchief, I was sent off to bed once again in the hopes that I might actually be able to sleep. I was always very excited in the knowledge that in the morning, I would be the most beautiful girl in my class. Sometimes this proved to be true. Usually it didn't. In the morning, Mom somehow arranged to take a break from milking. Perhaps my father took over. Long enough to come to the house to comb out and fashion my new hairdo. I think I was fairly satisfied with the results, but thinking back, I can only imagine what the Oregon rain must have done to my hair as I walked the 3 miles to the school bus. Whatever the results, this little beautification project took place every year, sometimes twice a year, until I was in high school and met a girl whose mother actually owned a beauty parlor.
True story. Oh my goodness. I think some of you have the same experience. Long ago, in a land not too terribly far away, a little girl was born to a couple who were farmers. She was brought home to a 6-year-old brother, and in the years to follow, her family would move 4 times. She attended public schools, earned a college degree, and then later a master's degree, became a teacher, married twice, had 1 child. Her life was unremarkable. Of course, the person I've just described is me. And yes, my life has not been extraordinary. I've accomplished a few moderately successful things in my life, but as compared to almost everyone else, my journey has been typical of a middle-class white woman living in a fairly middle-class American culture. For years, as I read books written as memoirs, I felt I had little in common with the authors, except that most of my favorite books were written by and about women. The author of The Glass Castle, Jeanette Walls, describes a nomadic childhood with an alcoholic father who loved his family but failed to give them any sort of stability. An Oregon woman who actually lived in Amity wrote a memoir titled Call Me Hope, in which she thanked our own UU, Jeff Geisler, for graciously hosting numerous visits to Jeff's classroom to speak to his 5th grade students. This author, Gretchen Olson, wrote about surviving extreme verbal abuse from her mother, and she later served on the board of the Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting project, and I have the little pin right here. Tara Westover wrote the best-selling memoir, Educated, which detailed her upbringing in a fundamentalist, survivalist Mormon family in Idaho. Much of Westover's childhood was horrific, as she experienced accidents and injuries, hard childhood labor, and little formal education. In spite of her extremely unusual childhood, Tara Westover went on to earn a PhD at Cambridge University in England and was selected as a senior research fellow at Harvard Kennedy School in 2020. One unlikely author whom I had the great pleasure of actually meeting was a keynote speaker for the Oregon State Convention of the American Association of University Women. And this was a few years ago. And she and I had a fairly lengthy conversation. Lily Ledbetter worked on the assembly line for Goodyear Tire for many, many years when she discovered that she had been paid tens of thousands of dollars less than her male counterparts. She sued Goodyear and lost at the Supreme Court level due to a technicality. But she was in the room at the White House when President Barack Obama signed into law, and it was his first law, the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act of 2009. And of course, there's First Lady Michelle Obama, who has given us 2 memoirs. The first, Becoming, gives us insights into the author's Chicago upbringings, her relationship with our 44th president, and a peek into her life in the White House. Her second book, The Light We Carry, offers habits, principles, and tools that we as women might use to overcome obstacles to find success with family and careers. Many of us, myself included, might look at these stories of these extraordinary successes and believe that our stories are unworthy. In my case, I felt I had no story to tell. I did not have an alcoholic, abusive parent. My folks were dairy farmers, and I spent my summers swimming in the river and showing cows at the state fair. As a teacher, I was not paid less than my male counterparts, and I certainly have never even set foot in the White House. So my story really isn't very compelling. It's just one woman's average journey through Middle America. And there my story sat for many, many years like a box of old, well-preserved Twinkies sitting on the shelf in the back of my closet. But then our children grew up. I have a daughter from a previous marriage, and my husband Alan has a daughter and 2 sons. They were all in their teens when he and I got married, and it seemed like these kids would remain single forever, right? But then, well, you know what happens. One by one, the kids did get married. And one day, I woke up with 9 grandchildren. And then one day, it occurred to me that these kids, these products of the 21st century, were experiencing a completely different childhood than I had. I was 10 years old when a television set was brought into our house, and my favorite shows were The Millionaire, The Lone Ranger, and Lassie, right? By the time some of my grandchildren were 2, they were processing the battles in Star Wars and sorting out the weird shenanigans of the supernatural little characters in Gravity Falls. While my grands kept appointments at Little Angel's Hair Care at 3 years old and got to pick out fun nail polish at the nail salon, I had no idea that there was something called a beauty parlor until I was in the 9th grade. These kids were ordering clothes off the internet and shopping at the Gap to get ready for kindergarten. Nearly all my clothes were made by my mom or were hand-me-downs from a cousin who was older than I. And there was no such thing as a kindergarten in the little farming community where I lived when I was 5 years old. So maybe I did have a story to tell. After a careful consideration, I decided that my audience would be my grandchildren, and the story would be about my childhood. I was able to break the story into 6 well-defined chapters. Each chapter held little stories about the many memories I carried with me. And I found old pictures sitting in plastic bins I kept underneath the bed, right? Which were of absolutely no use to anyone. It took a couple of years. But when I finished, I had a book. And here it is. Yep. And if I can find it, you can't see these because they're too far away, but I included old pictures. I did a cut and paste, not by the computer, just with tape, and put in the old pictures. So I'll put it away. I had several copies made, and in time I would write a second memoir, and this time it was about my adult life. This whole process, the convincing myself that my story was worth telling, the actual writing, the editing, and finally the publishing, led me to wonder about the benefits of memoir writing. I know why I wanted to put my story out there, but why do others do it? Is it helpful, or can it be really frightening and painful to bring up terrible memories in a person's life? According to Matthew Solon, as executive director of Harvard's Men's Health Watch, as people age, they often feel isolated, distanced from their families, and even irrelevant. Many lose their sense of purpose and are at higher risk of low self-esteem and even depression. Even though most of my own friends, including many of you here today, are quite busy with active creative lives, some still feel a great loss of youth, of abilities, of families who have moved too far away. Recent studies have shown that several benefits arise from the act of writing one's life story. One such benefit is actually an improvement in one's physical and mental health. In a lengthy study by Patricia Boyle from the Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center in Chicago, it was discovered, this is amazing to me, it was discovered that people with an average age of 80, getting close, with a high level of purpose were more than twice as likely to remain free from Alzheimer's and had a 30% less cognitive decline. Memoir writing can actually increase your sense of purpose, rearrange your brain's organic structure, Sarah knows about that, and increase your physical and mental wellness. When I was 25, I was hired for my first teaching job. For the next 30 years, teaching provided me with a purpose and an identity. People often ask, "What do you do?" My answer, "I'm a teacher," right? But those 30 years seemed to just zip by. And suddenly, in 2001, I retired. I was out. And no longer writing lesson plans, preparing classroom activities, attending games. I was only in my mid-50s, and there I was, feeling a great sense of loss. What was I supposed to do now? Well, I became active with an election and joined a couple of organizations that provided me with some ways to fill my time. But I lacked that sense of purpose that I had always had. In 2007, I discovered this UUCS community, and the next year, I became a celebrant. This was something I could do. I liked it. It gave me purpose. And then about 3 years later, I started to write a memoir when the grandchildren started coming. I had never known one of my grandmothers, and while I knew the other one, I knew nothing of her story. Who were these women? What was their purpose in life? I began to feel a certain urgency to write my story down, to leave a written legacy for this new generation. In the process of writing my own story, I began to gain a clearer understanding of who I am and how others might see me. By posing questions about my past, I gained clarity and actually found a new meaning to life. I also began to understand that I require a sense of purpose every single day. And I began to realize that someday these grandkids might actually learn something from me. Brendan Kearney, a wellness coach at Harvard-affiliated Senior Life, states, and I quote, "Even if you write about parts of your life you've never told anyone because they were unhappy or painful memories, revisiting them can show others the strength it takes to overcome life's barriers when they face their own." Certainly by the time my grandchildren are old enough to experience love and marriage and possibly even divorce, they might well realize from reading their grandmother's memoir that there's really nothing new under the sun. If Gigi could survive as a single working mom for 9 years, maybe they'll believe that they could survive adversity too. Of course, I hope that's a lesson they never have to learn. When I talk about memoir writing to my friends, the discussion almost always leads to someone saying, "My memory of the incident is completely different from my sister's. How can that be?" Right? You probably have had that conversation. Well, it happens because it's your story. It's your perspective. When writing one's life story, it often happens that as we write, we gain a new perspective, a new way of looking at a particular situation or incident. When this happens, when you've written and rewritten, organized, and decided what is and is not true to you, things can change. Neuroscientists are finding that this process can actually change the brain's organic structure. And because of this cognitive restructuring, a person's mind remains more alert for a longer period of time. Cognitive restructuring allows us to look at our lives from a new and different and often healthier point of view. Jeanette Walls, author of The Glass Castle, describes a nomadic childhood that includes domestic violence, physical and emotional abuse, and her father's severe alcoholism. One would think that a childhood like this would cause anyone to see life only as something to simply survive. But Walls has gone on to publish several books, become a journalist, and she has become a television personality. Jeanette Walls has said, and I quote, "One of the lessons I learned from writing The Glass Castle is how much we all have in common. So many of us think that certain things only happen to us, and somehow that makes us less of a person. I'm constantly urging people," says Walls, "especially older folks, to write about their lives. It gives you new perspective. Memoir is about handing over your life to someone and saying, this is what I went through. This is who I am, and maybe you can learn something from it. If you can do that effectively, then somebody gets the wisdom and benefit of your experience without having to live it." End of quote. Jeanette Walls certainly gained a new perspective on her life as a result of writing a memoir. She allowed herself to look at her regretful childhood in a new way and actually change the narrative, resulting in a purposeful and accomplished adult life. It is true that some life stories are painful to recall. When one sits down to write her story, it may well be that certain parts of that story are not ready to be revisited. Writing about the hard stuff is not required, which is partly why I started with just writing about my childhood. And some interesting things came out of writing that story. I hadn't actually realized how magical life was as I played and danced and sang my way through the early years, how absolutely carefree and charmed my childhood really was, in spite of having only home-canned green beans for breakfast sometimes, and crying for a year over a disappeared puppy. I discovered, too, that I had never really fully appreciated how hard my mother worked in the house and on the dairy. And after I put my first draft down and let it rest a while, I reread it and discovered that a major theme running through the entire story was religion, my Christian Science upbringing, which I had struggled so painfully to get away from. People in the field of psychiatry are now finding that writing about a specific upsetting part of one's life is just as effective, get this, just as effective as writing about a specific, try that again. People in the field of psychiatry are now finding that writing about a specific upsetting part of one's life is just as effective as traditional cognitive processing therapy in treating PTSD and addressing painful memories. This is true for young people as well as for those of us who have seen a few years. So in my case, the process of writing about my childhood from birth to graduation from the University of Oregon included many references to religion, something I had been very angry about, an anger I had not been willing to address. In my writing and rereading, I realized that there had been many positive aspects to this upbringing. I had learned about loving kindness. It's a term that we sang about today, and I learned about that from Christian Science. And I learned about mind over matter, which led me to look at the world in a positive light. Certainly, there are many other teachings of that particular religion that I do not agree with, but in the end, the narrative changed, and the anger was replaced with a clearer understanding of my family. The question is often asked, what is the difference between a memoir and an autobiography? Well, an autobiography generally is the story of a person's entire life with names and dates and places and events. A memoir, on the other hand, addresses one aspect of a person's life. In my case, it was my childhood. Some people write about their career or their hobby or their travels or a relationship with a family member. One type of memoir is called a spiritual memoir, which addresses the writer's relationship with the sacred. Rather than exploring events and memories, the writer asks the question, who am I? How do I think? What is my relationship with the planet? What is my relationship with mystery and wonder and faith in the spirit of life? What makes me tick? I believe that there is something spiritual and sacred in the process of writing, especially a memoir, but also in a journal, in a thank you note, in a letter to a grandchild, or in the lengthier memoir. The act of writing gives us focus. It asks us to look at ourselves with integrity. It encourages us to ponder the meaning of life. Writing can improve our physical and mental health. It can create an intergenerational connectedness. In writing, we may find the spiritual in ourselves and the positive in our relationship with the world. Blessed be.
Close your eyes for a moment and let there come into your mind an image from your childhood. Could be a toy, a pet, some favorite place that you liked to go. Hold that image in your mind and now be aware. What does it look like? What color is it? What sounds does it make or are around? What does it feel like? Is it soft? Is it pokey? Is it cold? Is it warm? Are there any smells associated with it? Now hold all of that in your mind and allow yourself to wonder, how has this influenced me? How has this influenced my life? The remembrance of this item or place. Hold on to that and that feeling, and then sometime later on this week, how will you express that? Will you write about it? Draw or paint? Make a song? Make a dance? Revel in the moment and in the memory, and allow it to influence your life. We support UUCS through our pledges, time, and donations with one another. We support the Salem community through donations to the Marion Polk Food Share each week, donations being placed in the Little Red Wagon, which is coming up, and for the month of February, we are expanding that donation to the Marion Polk Food Share itself. Our connection to the Marion Polk Food Share has been for many years. Started off with Lorraine Stewart, driving weekly our donations to the donation site, and now Carrie Lynn Patterson is continuing that practice. If you're wondering about donating to this worthy cause, let me leave you with a quote. Hunger is not an issue of charity. It's an issue of justice. For those of you in person, you may donate either in the Red Wagon, or you may place monetary donations in the bags about to be passed. You also have on your printed order of service a little QR code if you'd like, and then you may also go to the website and donate that way. Thank you for all you do in maintaining UUCS and the greater community of Salem. Thank you, Dave. It's always wonderful to have his compositions, isn't it? It really adds to our experience. And in my fumbling over my words earlier this morning, I forgot to thank the UUCS board for helping to create last night's event. And then Gloria helped as well, planning for it a little bit, and Craig Rowland, so be sure and thank them when you see them. Next Sunday, speaking of life and memoirs, Rick is going to be back in the pulpit talking about a life to celebrate and his experience of what happens when he prepares for a memorial or celebration of life. If you've ever talked to him about it, you know it's a very meaningful and spiritual experience, a unique experience each time that he does that. So I'm glad he's going to share that with us today, or next week. Also, what's going on is next week is apparently already the third Sunday in February. I can't believe it. The board forum is going to happen, and this is going to be an opportunity for you as members to tell the interim minister search committee what you would like in an interim minister. What do you think of when you think of an interim minister? Not an intern, but an interim minister that's going to help us transition into our settled minister. There are going to be set questions that you are going to be asked and have an opportunity to answer, and it's sort of like a brainstorming session. So any answer is fine, it's great. It's just going to help them guide that way. This is going to be this month, and then in March there's going to be another session asking the same questions. So if you don't have an opportunity to come tomorrow or next week, trust me, I'll get some sleep. It'll be good. You can in March as well. For other news, always be sure and look at the great newsletter that comes out monthly or the Friday email blasts. And if you don't have access to that, be sure and contact the office and just ask Joe or Emma to get you on the contact list. And now Gloria is going to come up and light the social justice candle from the light of our chalice as a symbolic reminder of all that we do in our daily lives to help our hurting world. As she extinguishes the chalices, let's remember these words from Brian Clark on the 10 steps of becoming a better writer. Write. Write more. Write even more. Write even more than that. Write when you don't want to. Write when you do. Write when you have something to say. Write when you don't. Keep writing every day. Just write.
At this time, would you please rise in body or spirit as you are able as we sing our closing hymn, number 169, We Shall Overcome.
Thank you.
Now some final words from Groucho Marx. Outside of a dog, a book is man's best friend. Inside the dog, it's too dark to read. Please join me as we say our closing words. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.